Billionaire CEO entered the wrong room on a cruise. What he found left him shaken. He opened the door to the wrong cabin and saw her, the woman he left behind, and a little boy with his same eyes. Harper stood frozen, one hand shielding her son, the other pressed to her chest like she was trying to hold in 7 years of heartbreak. "You have to leave," she whispered. But it was too late, because the boy had already looked up, and for the first time in his life, Grant saw himself in someone else. Harper Monroe had never seen a lake so still. The sun dipped low beyond the pines, casting honey-colored streaks across the glassy water. From the window of Cabin 6, she could see dragonflies hovering just above the surface, like the world itself was holding its breath. Inside, the room was small, humble, but clean. Caleb, her 8-year-old son, sat cross-legged on the floor, humming quietly as he colored the tail of a paper kite. His tongue peeked out in concentration, his brow furrowed, just like his father's used to. Harper looked away. She reached for the drawer, pulled out a folded t-shirt and a toothbrush. The final room of the day, just one more shift, one more cabin, one more moment of pretending that everything was fine. Outside, the resort came alive in the golden hour couples strolling hand in hand, golf carts buzzing softly, laughter drifting from the lodge bar, and somewhere on this very property, Grant Donovan was arriving. He stepped out of a sleek black SUV like he owned the land, his tailored coat sharp against the rugged beauty of Montana's hills. His assistant trailed behind, rattling off numbers and schedules. But Grant barely listened. He was here for one thing: to close a deal that would make Donovan Estates the most powerful luxury property group in the Northwest. Nothing and no one was going to get in the way. Not even the ghost of the woman he once loved. Back in Cabin 6, Harper zipped Caleb's hoodie. "Did you finish your drawing for Mrs. Wren's art class?" she asked gently. Caleb nodded. "It's a cabin with stars above it and someone standing on the porch." Harper's breath caught. "Who's standing on the porch?" she asked. He shrugged. "I don't know. Just someone waiting." She ruffled his hair. "Let's go deliver towels to 12B. Then it's time for dinner." That night, fate twisted its threads. The resort map had a misprint. The suite labeled 12B on Grant's schedule was actually 6B. Harper's cabin. She never heard the footsteps in the hallway, didn't notice the door unlatch, because she was too busy brushing the hair back from Caleb's eyes so heartbreakingly familiar, whispering, "Sleep now. Baby, Mama's got you." And then the door creaked. Harper turned, and Grant Donovan, powerful, untouchable, unbreakable, froze in the doorway. He opened his mouth, but no sound came, because sitting on that bed was a boy with his same jawline, his same crooked smile, his same everything. Harper stood slowly, eyes wide, hands trembling. "Get out," she whispered. But it was too late, because the boy had already looked up. And in that moment, the past didn't knock. It just walked in and stared him down. What would you do if the person who broke you came back and looked into the eyes of the child they never knew? Chapter 1. The door that shouldn't have opened. The doorknob turned slowly. No knock, just the soft click of someone who believed they belonged. Harper didn't hear it right away. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, legs curled beneath her, brushing Caleb's damp hair into place with soft strokes. The boy had fallen asleep with a sketchbook on his chest. His final image, a pencil drawing of stars above a lake. She smiled as she lifted the paper away, careful not to smudge it. It wasn't until the door opened fully and a shadow stretched long across the room that Harper turned, and time stopped. He was taller than she remembered, older, Broader, cold air clung to his expensive coat, and for a moment, he didn't move. He stood in the doorway, like a man who had just walked into the last place on earth he expected to see. His eyes, those same storm-colored eyes, landed on her, and then drifted to the boy in the bed. And something inside him broke. Harper rose slowly. Protective instinct surged. She stepped between Grant and her son with a steady hand, shielding Caleb's small frame without touching him. Grant's lips parted like he wanted to speak, but nothing came. Harper's voice was quiet, firm. "You're not supposed to be here." Grant blinked, looked around the cabin like he might have dreamt this. He held up a piece of paper, a folded itinerary. They said 12B, the meeting. Harper cut him off. "You have the wrong room." He didn't step forward. He didn't dare. He just looked at her, and then at the boy again. "Is that—" "Don't." The word came sharper this time, but Caleb stirred. His eyes blinked open groggily. He sat up, rubbing his face, confused by the quiet tension hanging in the room. "Mom," he mumbled. "Shh, baby." "It's okay," she whispered. "Just close your eyes." Caleb's gaze moved past her, landing on Grant. He tilted his head, frowning. "Who's that?" Grant stepped back, like the question had hit him with more force than any accusation. Harper didn't answer. Instead, she walked to the door, opened it wide, and waited for him to leave. He hesitated. She met his eyes and whispered, just loud enough to shatter something inside him. "Please, don't make me wake him up to explain who you are." That did it. He turned, walked out. The hallway swallowed him whole. The door clicked shut behind him, and Harper sank to the floor, quietly, gently, like a woman who'd just been sucker-punched by memory. Out in the corridor, Grant leaned against the wall, eyes wide. He saw him, a boy, a little boy with his face. He wasn't ready for this. He had come here for a deal, a number, a signature, not for a heartbeat with brown eyes. Inside, Harper sat still on the floor, listening to her son's quiet breathing. And for the first time in years, she whispered his name to the darkness, like a prayer she hoped wouldn't be answered. "Grant, what do you say to the person who walked away from the best part of you and doesn't even know what he left behind?" Chapter 2. The Things We Never Said. The sun rose quiet and pale, peeking through the pine trees like it was afraid to disturb what the night had left behind. Inside cabin 6B, Harper moved on autopilot. Toast, banana slices, warm socks for Caleb. The routine she clung to like a raft in open water. But her mind wasn't here. It was still back in that moment, that doorway, that face, Grant Donovan. The name sounded foreign on her tongue now, like a song she used to hum before she knew the lyrics would cut so deep. Caleb sat at the small table by the window, swinging his legs as he colored another drawing. "He looked like someone I saw in a movie," he said, chewing on his pencil. Harper's hand froze over the dish towel. "Who?" "That man from last night. The one who opened our door." She looked up sharply. "He was watching her. It was just a mistake." "Baby," she said, voice gentle. "He thought we were someone else." He looked at me funny. Harper forced a soft smile. "Maybe you reminded him of someone." Once Caleb was dropped off at the kids' wildlife workshop, one of the resort's complimentary programs, Harper stepped outside and walked toward the edge of the lake. She dialed Rachel. Her oldest friend answered on the second ring, voice scratchy from sleep. "You okay?" she asked, without even saying hello. "He's here," Harper said, just 2 words. That's all it took. Silence stretched over the line, then a slow exhale. "You mean him?" Harper nodded, then realized Rachel couldn't see her. "Yeah, Grant, after all this time. Does he know?" He saw Caleb. The line crackled. Then, "Oh, Harper." They sat in that silence together, miles apart, but woven together by the kind of friendship that doesn't need noise to speak. He looked right at him, Harper said. And I saw it. I saw the moment he knew. What did he say? Harper rubbed her eyes. Nothing. That's the worst part. He didn't even have to. Later, Harper returned to the kitchen for her shift. She put on the beige apron with the resort's pine tree logo, tied her hair up, and tried to become invisible. Guests walked past her with towels and pool drinks, smiling politely. No one knew that the CEO staying in the penthouse had once made her promises under the stars, then left without a word. Across the resort, in the executive wing, Grant stood at his window, staring out at the lake. He hadn't slept. Not really. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her, the woman he once loved more than anything, now standing between him and a little boy who looked like the second chance he didn't deserve. His assistant knocked on the door, reminding him about the investor brunch. Grant didn't answer. He just pressed a hand to the glass and whispered to himself, "He looked just like me." What if your past returned not for answers, but for the life it never knew it left behind? Chapter 3. Strangers at the same table. The dining hall buzzed with morning chatter guests in sun hats, clinking cutlery, the low hum of jazz from unseen speakers. Harper moved between tables, balancing a tray of pastries in one hand, her other gripping the linen napkins too tightly. Her name tag itched. Her stomach turned. Every time the door swung open, she flinched, expecting him. She hadn't seen Grant since the night he stepped into her cabin by mistake, but she felt him, like a shadow, cast long across her ribs. She set a tray down at table 4, smiled at a guest asking for more butter, and turned just in time to freeze in place. There he was, Grant Donovan, wearing the same navy button-down he used to wear in autumn, when they'd curl up in the back of his truck and talk about forever. Only now, he was surrounded by suits, investors, glasses of orange juice and mimosas and checklists. He looked up. Their eyes met. Harper's breath caught. She turned away fast, but not before he stood, pushing back from the table, muttering something to the man beside him. "Excuse me," Grant said, moving toward her. She disappeared into the kitchen. He waited by the service hallway. 10 minutes. 15. Finally, she emerged, hands full of folded napkins. Face blank, voice cool. "You shouldn't be here. Neither should you," he said softly. "You shouldn't be working this hard. Don't pretend you know what my life looks like." "I'd like to," he said. She scoffed, brushing past him toward the coffee machine. "It's been almost 9 years. Grant." He followed. "You didn't tell me. You didn't ask." That silenced him. She turned, hands on her hips. "You left. You never called. You vanished for a deal in Hong Kong and never came back." He looked down. "I thought I'd be gone 6 weeks. I didn't plan to stay away. I didn't know you were pregnant." The word stung like a slap made of breath. "I wasn't going to chase someone who already left," she said. "So I didn't." Behind them, a laugh rang out from a nearby table. A child's laugh. Caleb, he was walking toward them now, clutching a small sketchbook, smiling. Grant stepped back instinctively, unsure whether to stay or vanish. Harper swallowed hard. "Go," she whispered. "Does he know?" No, not even a guess. She looked at him, and this time, he saw it. The tired pain of a mother who had carried everything alone. He thinks his dad was someone I lost, not someone who walked away. Grant's jaw tightened. "Let me explain." "To who?" Harper asked. "To me, or to the boy who has your eyes and still asks why he draws better than any kid in class?" Grant didn't have an answer. Caleb reached her side, holding out a page. "Mom, I drew us." The paper showed a cabin, a lake, 2 stick figures holding hands, but this time there were 3. Harper's knees buckled, just slightly. She smiled tightly and ran her fingers through his hair. "It's beautiful," she said. Grant watched, aching with things he hadn't earned the right to say. He turned to leave, walking slowly toward the exit. Harper watched him go, then whispered, to herself more than anyone, "Don't come back unless you mean to stay." What if the one person you kept waiting for showed up just when you stopped waiting? Chapter 4. The firelight between us. The bonfire crackled low, casting golden halos on the sand. Harper stood near the edge of the crowd, her arms crossed, the fire's warmth brushing her skin. Laughter floated up from the group guests roasting marshmallows, kids chasing fireflies, a local musician strumming a quiet guitar. But Harper felt none of it, because somewhere behind her, he was watching. She hadn't seen Grant since the brunch. 2 days, 2 long, restless nights. She kept herself busy cleaning cabins, folding towels, braiding Caleb's hair, while he colored another picture of the lake. But no matter how many chores she stacked between her and the past, his presence clung like fog. Now, beneath the firelight, she felt him approach before he spoke. "You always hated the smell of smoke," Grant said, voice low. Harper didn't turn. "Still do." He stepped beside her, hands buried in his coat pockets. "You're not going to make this easy, are you? You thought it would be—" A long silence passed. Then she finally turned to look at him. "Why did you come back?" "Grant, I didn't know you were here. But now you do." "I'm not leaving." Her laugh was bitter, but soft. "That's rich, coming from the man who vanished for almost a decade." "I didn't know," he said. "If I had—" She cut him off. Don't pretend knowing would have made you stay." His jaw clenched. He looked away. "You left for a deal. You didn't write. You didn't call. You made your choice. I was young. I thought I had time." "So did I," she whispered, until the pregnancy test said otherwise. The fire popped behind them. Children squealed in the distance. The night felt alive with everything that wasn't being said. "You should have told me," Grant said. Harper looked at him, eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "You should have been someone I could tell." He didn't speak. He couldn't. Instead, he reached slowly into his coat pocket and pulled out something small, a folded paper. "What's this?" Caleb dropped it by the buffet. "It's a sketch." She unfolded it carefully. It was a drawing of her, and Caleb, and a tall man standing near them. A man drawn in sharper lines, more color, someone the boy didn't recognize, but couldn't ignore. Her throat tightened. "He doesn't even know why he draws you," she whispered. "But you're in him." Grant looked at her now, fully, eyes raw, guard gone. "Let me get to know him." "And then what?" she asked. "Walk away again when another boardroom calls." "No," he said, shaking his head. "I don't care if every deal I've built crumbles. I don't care if my investors drop me tomorrow. I'm not losing my son." The word "my" stung, but Harper didn't flinch. "You don't get to call him that yet." She stepped back, folding the sketch carefully, holding it to her chest. "Don't make promises to a child if you're not prepared to break yourself trying to keep them." Grant nodded slowly. He understood more in that moment than any shareholder meeting had ever taught him. Then he said one final thing before walking away. "I never came back for forgiveness, Harper. I came back to be someone worth it, even if it's too late." She stood by the fire long after he left, the sketch still pressed to her chest, the past and future fighting somewhere inside her ribs. She didn't cry. She just whispered to the night, "Don't let him break us again." What does it take to forgive someone who shattered you? And what if they've finally come back to pick up the pieces? Chapter 5. Blood can tell, but love must prove. The clinic smelled like lemon disinfectant and nervous hope. Harper sat in the corner, her hands in her lap, thumb tracing circles on her palm. Across from her, Caleb perched on the padded exam table, swinging his legs like a child. with no idea that the adults were barely breathing. Grant stood near the window, silent, still, like a man trying not to crush glass with his own hands. The doctor came in polite, efficient, unbothered by the emotions in the room. "You both consented to the cheek swabs. We'll have results tomorrow," she said. "Until then, try to get some rest." Rest? Harper almost laughed. Later that evening, Harper walked Caleb back to their cabin. He chattered about the turtles he saw near the lake and how he wanted to build a little boat out of pine bark. "Mom," he asked suddenly, "that man, the one who brought my sketch back, is he your friend?" Harper hesitated. "He was a long time ago. He's sad," Caleb said matter-of-factly. "His eyes are loud." Harper stopped walking. "His eyes are loud," Caleb nodded, like he wants to cry, but forgot how. Harper blinked against the lump rising in her throat. Meanwhile, Grant sat in his suite, staring at his phone. Messages from his assistant kept flashing. Investors want an update. Media is asking questions. Gossip blog posted cruise rumor re. Fatherhood. Do you want to respond? He turned the phone face down. None of it mattered now. There was a boy on this ship who might share his blood. But that wasn't what scared him most. What scared him was, what if the test came back positive and he didn't know how to love right? What if he wasn't enough? The next day, just past noon, the results came in. The doctor didn't say much, just handed Harper the sealed envelope and offered a quiet nod of respect. She opened it slowly, fingers trembling. 2 lines, 1 conclusion. Probability of paternity, 9%. Her breath caught. She stared at the words. Words she already knew were true. But seeing them, it changed something. It made everything real. She found Grant near the stables, where the resort offered guided horseback rides. He was alone, brushing a mare's neck absent-mindedly. She handed him the envelope. He didn't open it. Not yet. He just looked at her. "You already know what it says, don't you?" She nodded once. "I knew, the moment you looked at him." Grant opened it anyway. "Read it, slowly." Twice. Then he sat down hard on the wooden bench behind him, as if the weight of the truth had taken his knees. "He's mine." "Yes." "God!" "I missed everything." Harper sat beside him. "Quiet, not everything," she said. "You're here now. You think that's enough." "No," she whispered. "But it's where you start later." As the sun dipped over the hills, Grant knocked on their cabin door. Harper opened it. Caleb looked up from his drawing, surprised. "Hey, buddy," Grant said gently. "Would it be okay if I sat with you for a bit?" Caleb looked at Harper. She gave the smallest nod. The boy smiled. "Sure." Grant crossed the room slowly and sat down beside him. "What are you drawing? A horse? Her name is Maple." "That's a good name," Grant said softly. "Strong and sweet." Harper watched from the doorway, heart aching in all the places she thought had long turned numb. And for the first time in a very long time, she let herself hope. DNA can confirm what we are, but only love can prove who we're willing to become. Chapter 6. Things he never learned to say. Grant walked beside Caleb, the small pine path winding under tall trees, leaves crunching softly beneath their shoes. Caleb had insisted on showing him the secret stump, a spot he'd found with painted rocks, a tiny birdhouse, and initials carved into the bark. "That's mine," Caleb said proudly, pointing to a faded C, M, scratched into the wood. Grant crouched beside it, running his fingers across the initials. "I like it. It's bold. Mom says I don't know how to do small." Caleb grinned. Grant smiled, trying not to let emotion crack his voice. "She's right." A few feet away, Harper lingered with a thermos of tea, keeping her distance, but close enough to hear their laughter. She'd almost canceled this walk. She was scared of letting Caleb get too attached too fast. But something in Grant's quiet patience had softened her defenses. He didn't push. He didn't pretend. He just showed up. And that, in itself, was more than she ever thought he was capable of. Caleb ran ahead, hopping over roots, collecting acorns like treasures. For a moment, Grant and Harper were alone again. The air between them filled with the warmth of old ghosts and new hesitations. "He likes you," she said quietly. Grant let the words settle. "I'm afraid to like him too much." He confessed. She turned. "Why? Because what if I fail him? What if I disappear again without meaning to?" Harper's voice was steady. "Then don't." They walked in silence a bit longer. Then Grant spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't know how to stay. Back then, I was raised by a man who thought presence was a paycheck. And now, I want to be the kind of father I never had." She didn't answer right away. The wind rustled the branches overhead, and somewhere, a loon called out across the lake. Harper looked over at him. The man she once loved. The man who left. The man who now stood in front of her, stripped of excuses. "You don't get to rewrite the past, Grant," she said. "But you do get to earn the future." Later that night, Grant brought Caleb a small wrapped box. "Can I give you something?" he asked. Caleb nodded eagerly, tearing into the paper. Inside was a compass, worn, silver, real. "It was mine," Grant said softly. "My grandfather gave it to me, said it always pointed home." Caleb turned it over, eyes wide. "Is this for me?" "Only if you want it." Caleb clutched it to his chest. "Will it always point to Mom?" Harper covered her mouth. Grant knelt beside him. "It'll point to wherever your heart feels safe." That night, after Caleb drifted to sleep, Harper stepped out onto the porch, where Grant stood, looking out at the stars. "You did good today," she said. He looked at her, eyes rimmed and quiet. "I still don't know what I'm doing." "That's okay," she whispered. "None of us do. We just keep showing up anyway." Some love stories don't start with fireworks. They begin with a man finally learning how to stay. Chapter 7. The rumor that changed everything. The morning started like any other. Pancakes on Caleb's plate, coffee in Harper's hand. A quiet smile passed between her and Grant as they crossed paths in the hallway, soft, subtle, like the beginning of something they didn't dare name yet. He didn't say much, just, "I'd like to take him fishing today." She nodded, heart fluttering. "Just keep sunscreen in your pocket." But the peace didn't last. Not that day. It started with a woman near the fireplace, scrolling through her phone. Then another guest leaned in, whispering, glancing, staring. By the time Harper returned to the dining room, the air had shifted. Her coworker, Danny, stepped close and murmured, voice low, "Hey, you might want to see this." She handed Harper her phone. An online article was open. Breaking: Billionaire CEO Grant Donovan spotted vacationing with mystery woman and child. Possible secret family. Photos: blurry but real. Grant holding Caleb's hand. Harper in the background, looking over her shoulder, unaware. A headline sharpened to sting. The secret he couldn't keep. Harper's blood ran cold. She dropped the phone. Behind her, someone whispered too loudly, "That's her, the waitress." A guest at table 9 snapped a photo, not even pretending to be discreet. Grant arrived seconds later. He saw her face before he saw the article. What happened? She held up the screen with trembling fingers. "Did you tell anyone?" "No," he said. "I swear, Harper, I didn't." She stepped back, voice shaking. "Someone took these without asking. They published our son's face. I'll fix it." "You can't," she hissed. "You don't get to control this part. This is our life, not a headline." Guests were starting to stare now, leaning from behind chairs, murmuring louder. Caleb peeked out from behind the counter, where he was playing with crayons. and heard a woman say, "He looks just like that CEO." His face crumpled. He rushed to Harper, hugging her waist. "Mom, why are they saying that? Why is everyone looking at me?" Harper's voice caught in her throat. She knelt to meet his eyes. "You didn't do anything wrong, sweetheart." Grant watched helplessly as the boy looked between them, trying to stitch together a puzzle with no picture on the box. That afternoon, Harper kept to her cabin, curtains drawn, phones off. She tried to answer Caleb's questions without unraveling. She tried to believe this could still be fixed. But deep down, the quiet fear crept in. What if the world ruins us before we even begin? Meanwhile, Grant made calls, fired 2 PR consultants, called his assistant, demanded takedowns, but the pictures had already gone viral. The story had already taken on a life of its own, one that didn't care about the boy's innocence or Harper's right to privacy. At sunset, he stood outside her door, shoulders slumped, voice barely above a whisper. "I never wanted to hurt you or him." "But you did," she answered from inside. "Even if you didn't mean to." He didn't reply. "Because what do you say when sorry's not enough? Sometimes it's not the past that breaks us. It's how the world tries to rewrite it before we're ready to share it." Chapter 8. The choice that would break them. The air was different, still, heavy. The kind of morning where even birds hesitate to sing. Harper stood in front of the mirror, brushing Caleb's hair with slow, trembling fingers. His sketch pad lay forgotten on the floor, filled with drawings of trees, stars, and now a man's face. He was just beginning to understand. "Are we going home soon?" he asked softly. Harper paused. "Would you want that?" Caleb shrugged. "I like it here, but people keep looking at me weird." She swallowed hard. "I know, baby. I'm trying to fix that." Meanwhile, in the penthouse suite, Grant sat with his phone in his lap, unread messages piling like snowdrifts. His PR team wanted a statement. His investors wanted silence. His assistant called twice. "We can still save the deal," she said, "but you'll need to disavow any paternity, or at least stay vague." He hung up without replying and sat in the quiet. He looked at the photo Caleb had drawn, taped gently to the suite's mini fridge. A stick figure version of the 3 of them, holding hands, smiling. It was the first time Grant had seen himself drawn into a family, not a boardroom, and the thought of denying it made him sick. By noon, the whispers had become open questions. Is she the mistress? Do you think she trapped him? Where's the real wife? Harper couldn't even walk Caleb to the resort library without feeling eyes on their backs. She tried to shield him. But how do you block out voices that echo louder than truth? Grant found her by the lake, the same bench they once kissed on during a thunderstorm years ago. She stood up before he reached her. "Don't, Harper. Please. You told me you came back to be different. But the moment things got complicated, you let the world define us. I didn't ask for this. Neither did I." Her voice cracked, and for the first time, Grant looked afraid. Not of failure, not of exposure, but of losing her again. "They want me to hold a press conference," he said, "to say you and I aren't connected, that the boy is just a rumor." "And what are you going to do?" she asked. He hesitated, and that silence told her everything. She nodded slowly, breath shaky. "You don't get to be afraid now." "Grant." "I'm not." "Then say it," she whispered. "Say you're his father. Say you love him. Say you choose us." He couldn't. Not then. Not yet. The weight of losing everything, money, power, reputation, was too loud in his chest. Harper stepped back. "Then leave." "Harper, we were fine without you. We can be fine again." She turned, tears falling silently. And as she walked away, Caleb looked up from where he'd been crouched behind a bush, watching. His voice was barely audible. "Is he leaving again?" Harper knelt and hugged him tightly. "He hasn't decided." That night, Grant stood in his suite alone, glass of untouched whiskey in his hand. The news cycle had already started spinning stories. CEO denies secret family, says rumors are personal in nature. But the only headline that echoed in his mind was the one Harper had written with her voice, "Then leave." He stared at Caleb's drawing again, and for the first time in years, he cried, "What if the love of your life gave you one last chance to choose them, and you froze when it mattered most?" Chapter 9. The day he showed up anyway. Harper hadn't expected him to come. After the article, after the silence, after the choice he couldn't make. She and Caleb were on the lawn by the lake, surrounded by balloon animals, lemonade stands, and parents cheering kids through a potato sack race. It was supposed to be a distraction. It wasn't working. Caleb's eyes kept drifting toward the cabins, the docks, the spot where Grant had first offered to take him fishing. "Mom," he whispered, "is he really gone?" Harper swallowed. "I don't know. Baby." Then the microphone crackled. "Ladies and gentlemen, a quick announcement. Please welcome our sponsor for today's family event." She didn't hear the rest, because in that moment, Grant walked across the lawn. No suit, no sunglasses, just jeans, a soft gray Henley, and a trembling look in his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and broken regret. Harper stood slowly, her breath caught. Caleb dropped the balloon he was twisting. "It's him." He reached them quietly, hands at his sides, voice low. "Can we talk?" Harper didn't move. "Why are you here?" "Grant, because I finally stopped thinking about what I might lose and started thinking about what I already lost once." Caleb looked between them, clutching Harper's sleeve. Grant knelt slowly to the boy's level. "Hey, buddy, I messed up. Did you get in trouble?" Grant smiled sadly. I forgot what mattered most, and I remembered just in time." He looked up at Harper. "I'm not giving any statement, not one more press call. If the world wants to spin stories, let them. I'll be right here beside him until he knows I mean it." She stared at him, arms folded, pain still fresh in her chest. "Words don't undo what silence already did." "I know," he whispered. "That's why I'm not here to talk. I'm here to show up." Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out something small, a worn silver key. "It's for the lake cabin, the one we once dreamed of fixing up. I bought it back." "Why?" "Because someday I want him to have a place that's just home. No cameras, no whispers, just trees, quiet, and a dock where he learns to skip stones with someone who never leaves." Harper's throat tightened. "You think one key fixes everything?" "No. I think it's the first thing I'm putting down to build something real." Silence fell. Then Caleb took Grant's hand gently. "Will you do the three-legged race with me?" Harper looked at him, stunned. Grant blinked. "Are you sure? I'm fast. You just have to keep up." Caleb grinned. Grant smiled through the wetness rising in his eyes. "I'll try my best, champ." As they ran clumsily across the lawn, one grown man and one giggling boy tied at the ankle. Harper watched, not with relief, not yet, but with permission for her heart to start hoping again. Sometimes a man won't give you perfect words, but he'll give you the one thing that matters more. He'll stay. Chapter 10. The room wasn't empty after all. The air shimmered with quiet goodbye. Pine Hollow's final evening event gathered every guest beneath string lights and slow jazz. People clinked glasses, said things like, "We should stay in touch," and "What a magical week." Harper stood at the edge of it all, holding a plastic cup of lemonade. She'd almost skipped it, but Caleb had begged. "Just one more night," he said. "Please." So here she was, watching him dance in the grass with two other kids, spinning wildly, laughter unburdened. And then, from behind her, "You look like someone who once told me I couldn't dance." She turned. Grant was in a dark button-down, Sleeves rolled. No tie, no show. Just a man, fully here. I said you shouldn't dance, she corrected. You've got 2 left feet and a right hook when you spin. He smiled slow and real. I came to say goodbye, he said. Her heart dropped. You're leaving. He shook his head. Not to you, not to him, to the version of myself that thought he could live without this. He held out a folded slip of paper. She opened it with cautious fingers. It was an invitation to a public foundation he'd just started. The mission? Granting Quiet Futures, a nonprofit offering education, trust funds for children of single mothers. He had used his company's name, his platform, but not for a headline, for something real. It's not penance, he said. It's proof I heard you. She looked at him, eyes filling slowly. And us? He stepped closer. You don't have to love me again, Harper, but let me earn a place in your life. In his, you already have, she whispered. That night, Caleb crawled into bed and said, Mom, I liked today. I didn't feel different. She brushed his hair back. You're not different, she said. You're just more you than ever. When she stepped out onto the porch, Grant was still there, sitting on the steps, arms resting on his knees. He looked up. Do I get to stay tonight? He asked softly. Harper sat beside him. She didn't answer with words. She reached for his hand, laced her fingers through his, and leaned her head on his shoulder, like it had always belonged there. The wind whistled low through the trees. The porch light glowed like a heartbeat. He once walked into the wrong room and found everything he never knew he needed. Now, with her hand in his and their son sleeping safely inside, he knew he'd never leave that room again. Love doesn't fix the past, but it holds you steady enough to build something stronger over it. She thought she'd closed that door forever. He thought he'd lost the right to ever knock again. But sometimes, the room you think is empty is already full of love waiting to be chosen. She didn't need a rescue, just someone who stayed. She raised her son with quiet courage, paid bills in silence, tucked him in with borrowed hope, and never once asked the world to notice. She didn't need saving. What she needed was for the one who left to come back whole, not with promises, but with presence. And when he did not perfect, not rehearsed, she saw something real in his eyes, not just love, but growth, not just regret, but change. He didn't rewrite the past, but he stood still long enough to hold the future with both hands. And for the first time, she didn't feel like someone left behind. She felt chosen. Have you ever had someone show up when it mattered most? Or maybe you're still waiting, not for an apology, but for someone who finally understands that love is a daily decision. Let us know in the comments. And if this story touched something in you, the next one goes even deeper. Click below. We'll meet you there.